The marble floor of the Sterling Grand was cold against my knees. I was 60 years old, or at least that's what my disguise said. My name, embroidered on the pocket of a gray, ill-fitting jumpsuit that smelled faintly of ammonia and stale sweat, was Artie. In reality, I was Arthur Sterling. I was 45. I was the CEO and founder of Sterling Hospitality, a global empire worth $3 billion. I owned this floor. I owned the chandeliers dripping with crystal above me. I owned the air conditioning unit humming in the walls. But right now, to the hundreds of people walking past me, I was less than furniture. I was a stain. I scrubbed at a scuff mark on the pristine white tile. My back ached. Not the dull ache of a gym workout, but the sharp, biting pain of humility. I had built this company on the principle of service. My father had been a doorman. I knew the weight of a suitcase and the sting of being ignored. But somewhere along the way, the Sterling Grand had lost its soul. Profits were down. Turnover was up. And the reviews were heartbreaking. Cold. Arrogant. Unwelcoming. I dipped my sponge into the bucket of gray water. "Hey! You! Move it!" The voice cracked through the lobby like a whip. It cut through the soft jazz piano and the murmur of guests. I looked up. Towering over me was a woman in a sharp crimson suit. Her heels were stiletto daggers, clicking impatiently on the marble. Her hair was pulled back so tight it looked painful. Veronica. The general manager. The woman I had hired 2 years ago to modernize the brand. "I'm sorry, ma'am," I mumbled, adopting the raspy, slow voice I had practiced for weeks. "Just getting this spot out. A guest spilled coffee." "I don't care if a guest spilled gold bullion," Veronica hissed, looking down at me with a mixture of disgust and boredom. "You are blocking the flow of traffic during peak check-in. Look at you. You look like a heap of trash in the middle of my lobby. Get up." I stood up slowly, feigning a bad knee. "Yes, Ms. Vance." "Sorry, Ms. Vance." "Don't speak to me," she snapped, checking her reflection in the brass elevator doors. "You smell like wet dog. Go to the service corridor. And if I see you in the main atrium before 10 p.m. again, you're fired. Do you understand?" "Fired." "Understood," I whispered, lowering my head. She didn't wait for my answer. She turned her back on me and walked toward the front desk. I watched her approach a young receptionist, a girl named Sarah whom I knew had been crying in the break room yesterday. I picked up my bucket and shuffled toward a decorative pillar, hiding in its shadow. I needed to see this. Veronica leaned over the granite counter. "Sarah," Veronica said loudly. Too loudly. "Why is Mrs. Higgins in room 402 waiting for her champagne?" I ordered it from room service, Ms. Vance," Sarah stammered, her hands trembling as she typed on the keyboard. "They said they are backed up because—" "I don't want excuses." Veronica slammed her hand on the bell. The sound made the guests in the line jump. "I want competence. Mrs. Higgins is a platinum member. If she waits 5 more minutes, I am deducting the cost of that bottle from your paycheck. Is that clear?" "Yes, ma'am. But that's a $300 bottle. That's half my week's pay." "Then run," Veronica smiled. It was a cold, reptilian smile. "Run down to the cellar and get it yourself. Heels or no heels." Sarah looked like she was about to shatter. She nodded, tears welling in her eyes, and ran toward the kitchen doors. I gripped the handle of my mop bucket so hard my knuckles turned white under the latex gloves. This wasn't management. This was tyranny. I retreated to the bowels of the hotel. The service corridors were a different world. Upstairs was gold leaf and orchids. Downstairs was flickering fluorescent lights and the smell of industrial bleach. I pushed my cart into the staff break room. It was a small, windowless room with a few mismatched chairs. Sitting at a plastic table was Maria. She was the head of housekeeping, a woman who had worked for my father before I even took over. She didn't recognize me. The thick glasses, the fake gray beard, and the padded stomach worked perfectly. "Rough morning, Artie?" Maria asked kindly, pushing a cup of lukewarm coffee toward me. She caught me in the lobby, I grunted, sitting down heavily. Ms. Vance. She told me I smelled like a wet dog. Maria sighed, shaking her head. She looked tired. Her uniform was clean but frayed at the cuffs. She's on a warpath today, Maria whispered. She's cutting hours again. She told the night shift that they have to clean 20 rooms per shift instead of 15. It's impossible, Artie. The girls are skipping lunch just to keep up. Why? I asked. The hotel is full. We charge $500 a night. Where is the money going? Maria leaned in closer. That's the mystery, isn't it? She says corporate is tightening the belt. She says Mr. Sterling, the big boss, is demanding higher margins. She blames him for everything. She tells us, if you want a raise, write a letter to Arthur Sterling and ask him why he needs another yacht. I choked on my coffee. I didn't have a yacht. I drove a 4-year-old sedan. What about the supplies? I asked. I noticed the towels in the laundry chute. They feel thin. Maria's eyes widened. Shh, don't talk about the linens. Why? Because, she whispered. 2 months ago, the supplier changed. We used to get the Egyptian cotton from the vendor Mr. Sterling authorized. Now, boxes come in with no labels. The sheets scratch. The towels unravel after 3 washes. But on the inventory logs, Ms. Vance writes premium import. My heart sank. It was classic embezzlement. She was buying cheap, trashy product, billing the company for the premium stuff, and pocketing the difference. On a hotel this size, that could be tens of thousands of dollars a month. Has anyone reported it? I asked. Reported to who? Maria laughed bitterly. HR answers to her. The regional director is her cousin. We are alone down here, Artie. We are just the ghosts that clean the toilets. Just then, the break room door banged open. It was Veronica. She wasn't alone. She was with a tall, slick man in a suit, Julian, the consultant she had brought in to optimize workflow. Well, Veronica sneered, looking at Maria and me. A meeting of the minds. The maid and the janitor. We both stood up immediately. We were just taking our 15, Ms. Vance, Maria said. Your 15 minutes is a privilege, not a right, Veronica said. She looked at the dust on top of the vending machine. This room is filthy. It's the break room, ma'am, I said. We clean it after shift. Don't talk back to me, Artie, she snapped. Change of plans. The VIP suite. The penthouse. We have a very important guest arriving tomorrow morning. The CEO. Arthur Sterling himself is coming for a surprise inspection. I froze. I was Arthur Sterling. And I certainly hadn't scheduled an inspection for tomorrow. He is? I asked. Yes, Veronica preened. And I want that penthouse spotless. I want it to shine. I want him to walk in and see that I am the only person holding this crumbling building together. Actually, she smiled. Artie, you go up there. Me, ma'am? I'm just general maintenance. Exactly, she said. The toilets in the penthouse need a deep scrub. With a toothbrush. I want you on your knees, Artie. I want you to scrub every inch of grout until your fingers bleed. If I find a single speck of dust, you won't just be fired. I'll make sure you never work in this city again. I pushed my cleaning cart onto the plush carpet of the penthouse hallway. Under the wheels of my cart, the fabric felt matted and sticky. The air smelled of stale lilies and something sweeter cloying, like cheap air freshener trying to cover up mold. I stepped inside the royal suite. This was the room we charged $5,000 a night for. I walked to the bed. It was massive, a 4-poster majesty. I ran my hand over the sheets. They were rough. Scratchy. I checked the tag on the pillowcase. 100% polyester. Made in bulk. I felt a vein throb in my temple. The inventory reports on my desk in New York claimed we were buying 800 thread count Egyptian cotton. I moved to the minibar. A bottle of Sterling Reserve whiskey sat on the counter. It was a proprietary blend, aged 25 years, created by my father. I uncorked it. I sniffed. It smelled like rubbing alcohol and caramel food coloring. I poured a tiny drop on my finger and tasted it. It burned. It was cheap rail vodka mixed with whiskey flavoring. "You are poisoning my guests," I hissed to the empty room. "And you are spitting on my father's name." I needed hard evidence. I walked into the small study adjoining the bedroom. I picked the lock on the desk drawer. Inside, there wasn't a guest log. There was a personal ledger. A black moleskine notebook. I flipped through it. October 12th, vendor kickback linen supply $4,500. October 15th, spillage write-off wine cellar $2,200. October 20th, staff wages withheld uniform fee $1,800. She wasn't just stealing. She was systematically stripping the carcass of the hotel. I took out my phone and photographed every page. Suddenly, I heard the elevator ding down the hall. Voices. Loud, laughing voices. I shoved the notebook back into the drawer and locked it. I grabbed a rag and dropped to my knees near the fireplace, frantically scrubbing at a soot stain. The door flew open. Veronica marched in, followed by Julian. She was holding a glass of champagne, my champagne. Julian was eating a truffle from the welcome basket. Ugh, Veronica stopped, wrinkling her nose. "It smells like old man in here." "Artie, why are the windows closed?" I didn't look up. "Sorry, Ms. Vance. Just trying to get the soot out." "You're too slow," she snapped. "The CEO arrives tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. If this room isn't perfect, I'm suing the staffing agency." Julian laughed, his mouth full of chocolate. "Look at him, he looks like a garden gnome." Veronica took a sip of champagne, then looked at the floor. "Wait. You missed a spot." "Where?" I asked. "Here," she pointed to the pristine white rug in the center of the room. There was nothing there. I don't see it, ma'am." "Are you blind as well as stupid?" Veronica asked. "Right. Here." She tipped her glass. Amber liquid, expensive, sticky champagne, poured onto the white wool rug. It soaked in instantly, creating a dark, ugly stain. My jaw tightened so hard I thought a tooth would crack. "Oops," Veronica smiled. A cold, dead smile. "Now there's a spot. Clean it up." "Ms. Vance," I said, my voice shaking. "That is a Persian wool rug. Champagne will set if—" "I don't want a lecture on textiles, janitor," she shouted. "I want it clean. Now. Use your tongue if you have to." Julian cackled. "Yeah, Artie. Lick it up." I crawled over to the rug. I started dabbing it with my rag. My heart was hammering against my ribs. "Patience, Arthur. Patience." "Good," Veronica sneered. She stepped forward. She planted her foot right next to my hand. She was wearing red-soled Louboutins. "While you're down there," she said. "My shoe is dirty. I stepped in something in the lobby. Probably some filth you failed to clean up." She nudged my hand with the toe of her shoe. "Clean it." I looked up at her. "Ma'am?" "Clean my shoe," she enunciated slowly. "Use your rag. Polish it. I want to see my face in it." The room went silent. This was the test. If I stood up now, I could fire her on the spot. But if I did that, she might destroy the evidence. I needed to catch her in front of the board. I swallowed my pride. It tasted like ash. "Yes, ma'am," I whispered. I took the rag. I reached out. I wiped the toe of her shoe. I polished the red leather. "Harder," she commanded. "Put some elbow grease into it, old man." I scrubbed. I felt the shame burning my skin. I was Arthur Sterling. I was a billionaire. And I was polishing the shoe of a thief. "Good," Veronica sneered. She kicked my hand away. "Now get out. You smell up the room. Finish the rug later. We have a strategy meeting to conduct." She winked at Julian. I walked out of the suite. I leaned against the wall in the hallway. My hands were shaking. I pulled out my phone. I dialed a number. "Frank, I said to my head of security. It's Arthur. Assemble the board of directors. Emergency meeting. Tomorrow morning. 8 a.m. In the lobby of the Sterling Grand. And Frank? Bring the police. I didn't sleep that night. I went back to the break room. I found Maria crying in the corner. She was holding a box of her things. She fired me, Maria sobbed. Security, they found wine in my locker. Artie, I don't drink. She planted it. I sat down next to her. She won't press charges, Maria, I said firmly. How do you know? She's powerful. No, I said, standing up and taking off my glasses. She's not the boss. She's just a manager. Artie? Maria frowned. You look different. Maria, I said. Do you trust me? Then don't go home. Come back tomorrow morning. 8 a.m. Wear your uniform. Stand in the lobby. But she'll have me arrested. No, she won't, I said. Because tomorrow, I'm going to introduce you to the real owner of this hotel. I went to the basement laundry room. I took off the gray jumpsuit. I threw it into the incinerator. I watched the name Artie burn and curl into ash. Underneath, I was wearing a t-shirt and boxers. I opened my duffel bag. I pulled out my suit. A bespoke navy blue Brioni suit. A crisp white shirt. A silk tie. I dressed in the dim light of the boiler room. I put on my platinum cufflinks. I slicked back my hair. I wiped the fake gray paint from my beard. Arthur Sterling was back. The lobby of the Sterling Grand was a theater of fear. It was 8 a.m. sharp. The staff was lined up in a military formation. Veronica stood in the center, checking her watch. She looked impeccable. Listen to me. Veronica barked at the staff. Mr. Sterling will be here any minute. When he walks through those doors, you smile. Maria! Where is Maria? I told security to throw her out. I'm here, Ms. Vance, Maria said, stepping out from behind a pillar. Get her out of here. Veronica shrieked. Security! Remove this thief before Mr. Sterling arrives. 2 security guards stepped forward to grab Maria. I pressed the button for the service elevator. Ding! Veronica spun around, furious. Who is using the service lift during inspection? The doors slid open. I stepped out. I wasn't hunching anymore. I was standing at my full height. My polished Oxfords made a solid, authoritative click against the marble floor. The lobby went dead silent. Veronica stared at me. She didn't recognize me. Excuse me? She demanded, marching toward me. Sir, you are in a restricted area. The service elevators are for staff only. I didn't stop walking. I walked straight toward her. I know, I said. My voice was deep, resonant. But the service elevator smells like ammonia. You really should upgrade the ventilation, Veronica. She froze. She stopped 5 feet away from me. How do you know my name? I took off my sunglasses. I know your name, I said. Because yesterday, you told me I smelled like a wet dog. Veronica's mouth opened. She looked at my face. Then, she looked at my hands. Artie? She whispered. The janitor? Arthur, I corrected. Arthur Sterling. A gasp rippled through the staff line. Sarah covered her mouth. Julian dropped the silver tray he was holding. No, Veronica stammered. That's impossible. You were scrubbing the floor. I was watching, I said. I was watching you scream at Sarah. I was watching you force the housekeeping staff to skip lunch. I was watching you switch my Egyptian cotton for polyester. It was a test. Veronica lied, her face pale. I knew it was you. I was just playing along. Is that so? I asked. Was it also a test when you stole from the wine cellar? I reached into my suit pocket. I pulled out my burner phone. A recording played over the lobby speakers. Veronica's voice echoed. I'm firing Maria tonight. I'll frame her for the missing wine. Problem solved. Veronica looked around, trapped. That's AI. He's trying to frame me. Julian, tell him. But Julian was already moving. He was inching toward the revolving doors. Going somewhere, Julian? I called out. The revolving doors stopped. My head of security stepped in. Mr. Vance, Frank said, we have a warrant for your arrest regarding corporate embezzlement and fraud. I turned back to Veronica. She was trembling now. Mr. Sterling, she begged. Please. I was trying to save the hotel money. You were stealing it, I said. But that's not why I'm firing you. I'm firing you because yesterday, you made a human being kneel before you and clean your shoe because you felt like it. My father was a doorman, Veronica. He cleaned shoes for 20 years. And he had more class in his little finger than you have in your entire body. You are fired, I said. Effective immediately. And you are banned from every Sterling property on the planet. I signaled to the police. Officer, she has a notebook in her desk drawer in the penthouse. It contains a ledger of every dollar she stole. The officers moved in. They handcuffed Veronica. As they dragged her away, she was silent. The lobby was quiet again. I turned to the staff. Sarah, I said. Yes, sir. I'm sorry about the champagne. No, I said gently. I'm refunding every fine Veronica levied against you. With interest. Sarah started to cry. I walked over to Maria. Maria, I said. Mr. Sterling, she curtsied awkwardly. I didn't know. You were the only one who offered me coffee, I said. You were the only one who warned me not to go up there. I need a new general manager. Me? Maria cried. I'm just housekeeping. You know the hotel, I said. You know the soul of this building. Frank, get the legal team to draft a contract. Maria runs the house. 1 year later. I walked into the lobby of the Sterling Grand. The air smelled of fresh lilies. The marble was gleaming. Sarah was the front office manager now. Mr. Sterling. She beamed. Welcome back. Maria left a gift in your room. I went up to the penthouse. The room was immaculate. The rug was white and pristine. On the table sat a bottle of Sterling Reserve whiskey. The real stuff. And next to it, a small, framed photo. It was a picture of me, dressed as Artie, sleeping in the breakroom chair. Underneath, a note written in elegant script. To the best janitor we ever had. Don't forget to wipe your feet. Maria. I laughed. I poured a glass of whiskey. I walked to the window and looked out at the city. I had $3 billion. But this hotel was my favorite. Because this was the place where I remembered that a title doesn't make a leader. A suit doesn't make a man. And sometimes, to see the dirt, you have to get down on your knees.